Today we're talking about how to start an LLC in Virginia, and what you're looking at back here is a checklist we're going to be running through of exactly how to do that. And before we really get into the nuts and bolts of all of this and we go through these drop-down menus, I want to talk about how to avoid the LLC dumpster fire. What an LLC does for you is it limits your liability, but the dumpster fire is when you don't set it up correctly and it's like 2-3 years out and an issue pops up, and then all of a sudden you find out you have a crack in your LLC that cost you tens of thousands of dollars in liability. Well, how does that happen? This happens when people don't understand terms such as piercing the corporate veil, registered agents, commingling funds, pass-through taxation, how the LLC renewal process works, and then also business licenses and permits. Now, to better understand all of these things, because I'm sure some of these things may be new to you, what we're going to be doing is explaining what an LLC actually does for your business. So why don't we open up this first drop down right here, and we'll start with that exact topic right here. Now, what we're going to do is talk about the fact that a limited liability company offers you limited liability protection, which makes sense, right? But we're also going to be covering pass-through taxation and exactly what that is for your business so you can understand what's going to happen at tax time as well. Let's use the example of owning a coffee shop without an LLC. Now, what we have here in the center is a business owner, and on the left-hand side are their personal assets. So personal home, personal car, personal bank account. And then on the right-hand side are the business assets, the cafe, the point of sale, the business bank account, the espresso machine, the lights. And what you can see here is that everything is connected to the business owner, which creates a lot of liability for that business owner. Now, if that business owner instead were to own an LLC that owns the coffee shop, it's going to look a little bit different. This is what that looks like. So now we have the business owner on the left-hand side, their personal car, personal home, personal bank account. And then the right-hand side, we have the business assets being owned inside of the Acme Coffee LLC is what we're calling it. Now, more importantly is this red division in the middle. That division is called the corporate veil. Now, what that does is it creates that division so that if somebody were to sue you, they can only come after your business assets, but not your personal assets. Now, let's say hypothetically that somebody were to be injured at the coffee shop and they hire an attorney. What that attorney is going to try to do is something called piercing the corporate veil. As you recall, that's one of the first things on our list here. And what they do is they start to look for cracks in your LLC. Like, is there something that maybe you didn't do correctly when you set it up, or you're not maintaining it correctly? And one example of that is you can see there's two bank accounts here, the personal and business. Well, let's say that you were commingling funds. What that is when you start with just a personal bank account and you run transactions for your business through that personal bank account. It may tell a judge that this is not a real LLC and being run and treated as a true LLC. So if the judge agrees with that attorney, they can pierce the corporate veil and then come after your business and personal assets. So again, this is why these terms on here are so important, that you understand these things so that when you're getting set up, you're doing things correctly from day one. What I want to talk about next is an explanation of pass-through taxation. Now, when it comes to tax time, some people think there's like a tax advantage for having an LLC, and there's really not, because the business deductions or expenses that you can have those with a sole proprietorship, right? But there are opportunities for you to save on taxes in the future, which we'll talk about in a moment. But what we're doing right here is just explaining how the IRS taxes the individual. Let's say Acme Coffee LLC grossed $140,000 and your expenses were $90,000. The net income of that is $50,000. The IRS is not taxing the LLC. What happens is that $50,000 passes through, or also known as flow-through taxation, to the business owner, and then the IRS is taxing the business owner. Just wanted you to be aware of that and understand how that works. Now, in a future video in the series, and this is a playlist, and we're going to be recommending you watch the next video in the series, we're going to be talking about how you can save on taxes when you have an LLC with an S-Corp designation. Now, what that does is it helps you to save on dividends or distributions. And again, we're going to get to that in a future video in this series. But I just wanted to tease that for you because this video is not just about like how to get your LLC set up, but it's also about the things you should know like 2 years out. Let's say you're netting $40,000, $50,000 of income in your business and you want to save on taxes. We're going to be covering that in this series as well. Why don't we click on this right here, the checklist to start your LLC. You'll see the first item is to get this checklist for yourself and explore bonus and glossary. So on the screen right now, you will see a QR code that you can scan with your phone, but you can also go to the description or pinned comment of this video and you will find a link where you can get this checklist for yourself for free. It is Notion doc. And down here in the bonuses, what you can get to is the AI chatbot. So this is pretty cool because what you can do here is you can say how to start an LLC in Virginia. And you can see that this chatbot is just going to give you a list of items to consider when you're getting your LLC set up. Now, if you have a question like, how do I register an EIN? You can click that button and that is going to explain that. But we're going to get into that in this video as well. There's also a cool charitable opportunity that's available here for you. A yearly accounting calendar I highly recommend you check out. A how to get free CPA advice and also future tax savings. Also with the glossary of terms here, if there's something that I say that like maybe confuses you or there's just some questions you have, you can go in here and look at the glossary of terms for extra information as well. What you need to do though is decide which route you want to go, and you can go with the state website, you can go with online LLC services, or you can go with a business attorney when you're getting your LLC set up. The entire next video in this series is going to cover that in detail here. But what I want to do for the purpose of this video is we're just going to approach this from the state website, which has its pros and cons, which we'll discuss as we go. So what you'll need to do, assuming that we're going through the state website for this, is decide on a business name for your LLC. A lot of times people blow this out of proportion and they think they need this like perfect name. You don't. Your LLC doesn't have to be your brand name. It could just be something like Acme Coffee LLC, but you can have your brand name exist within the LLC with a DBA, which is a doing business as, or sometimes it's called a fictitious name. So that might be your brand name, like Espresso Yourself Cafe or something like that, right? I just wanted to make you aware of that because some people get hung up on having the perfect name. Doesn't really matter. But what does matter is that that name is unique within the state of Virginia. So what we're going to do next is search availability of your business name. There's a state directory list here, and we're going to scroll down to Virginia. And then once you get on here, so we're going to click register your business name and then check name availability right here. So if we search something like Dollar Tree, which actually is headquartered in Virginia, chances are is we're going to find that this name is taken within the database. And you say entity name entered is not distinguishable because you have the core name Dollar Tree already taken here. So what we're looking for is, let's say we just do something crazy here and we do a name check. What we're looking for is this right here that says the name is available. All right. So when you put your name in there, that's what you're looking for. Next, once you have a unique name, you want to get your LLC set up. You can see the first step here is register your LLC name. Well, this is kind of like a half step, and this also pertains to writing your articles of organization and filing your articles of organization, which we'll talk about in a second. The best way to explain this is like, let's say you want to get a website set up, but you don't have the time or resources to invest in getting the actual website set up today. You may go and buy the domain name just so you can get that name. That's like registering your LLC name. When you actually want to get the site up and running, it's like filing your articles of organization for your LLC. That's what actually gets your LLC set up. So what you want to do here is click on this state directory here, and we're going to scroll down again to Virginia, and we're going to take a look at what the articles of organization looks like and just highlight a few parts of it that may be a little bit more confusing. So here you can see that there's a $100 filing fee as of making this video. Just know that that state filing fee, there's no way around that. You're going to pay that if you go through the state website, if you go through an online legal tool, or if you go through a business attorney. But you can see that this is broken into sections here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Section 1 here is just the LLC name. Section 2 is the principal office. Section 3 is the registered agent. Now I want to take a moment to explain this because they don't do a great job of doing this for you. There's really two rules with a registered agent. They must have a physical address in the state of Virginia, and also it can't be a PO box. So it has to be somebody that lives in the state. And what it is a third party that handles important documentation and communication for your business. Now let's go back to the coffee shop example. Let's say that you were to be sued because somebody got injured at your coffee shop. What's going to happen is that attorney is going to send documentation. The registered agent is going to make sure that you get all the important information, such as a service of process notice, which is basically saying that you need to show up in court. And they're going to make sure that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's throughout this process. So they're a very important service to have. And in the next video, we're actually going to talk about different professional services out there that include this for free for the first year for you. So then once you go through this, if you're doing it through the online portal, it'll be a little bit different. It'll be broken up into steps, or you can actually just print up this PDF and mail it to them with a $100 check. But it's actually pretty clear, cut and dry as far as the information. Registered agent is pretty much the only thing that I think they kind of breezed over in this particular document. And then once you have that, you can mail that into the Secretary of State with that $100 check. And you're all set once you assign that registered agent. Now, what you might want to consider is creating and signing an LLC operating agreement. What an LLC operating agreement does is it spells out who the members of the LLC are, another way of saying owners, and then what are their roles and responsibilities. But it can also get into things such as, what if one of the members needs to exit the LLC? How is that handled? Now, let's say that your coffee shop blows up and you have 20 locations. Well, if you have a partner who wants to leave after 9 years, how do you pay that person out? Well, you don't really know if that's not spelled out in the operating agreement. So this is a situation where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, because this could cost tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees to figure out exactly what this person's supposed to get, because the business has grown so much and things get more complicated. So it's highly advised to create an LLC operating agreement. What I'll say is the state website won't provide these to you. Online LLC service tools will give you a boilerplate one, and a business attorney is going to give you one that's really dialed into your specific situation. But again, that comes with a much higher price tag. After LLC formation, what you should consider doing is setting up an EIN right away. There's a link to the IRS here, and what an EIN is an employer identification number, and it's like a social security number for your business that the IRS assigns you. If you're going to have people on payroll, you have to have an EIN in place. And it's also helpful when you're doing things such as like getting a business insurance, a business banking account, or perhaps it's like you're trying to sign a lease and you want to look professional to that person that you're signing the lease. You don't want to give them your social security number. You want to give them your EIN of your business. So I highly advise setting that up. If you go through the IRS, it's free to do that, but the online LLC services will do that for you for an extra fee. Again, the state websites are not going to help you with anything on the federal level. Next, we want to talk about obtaining business licenses and permits for your LLC. There's a pretty helpful SBA resource here that goes through this process for you that you can look into. But what I want to do is just kind of explain it with an example. Let's say that you are opening up a brewery. You're looking at brewing beer, distributing beer, and serving beer. Those three things all may require licenses and permits, and then those can happen on the federal level, the state level, and the local level. It really depends on your business category. Not every business is going to have a license and permit, but if you're something like a dentist office, a chiropractor, a construction firm, a brewery, these are examples of places that may require additional licenses and permits for you to operate your business. Now, again, the state website's not going to help you with this, really. It may help you on the state side, but not the others. What I would suggest is that you can actually call your local town clerk office and just tell them, hey, I'm looking at setting up this type of business. Is there any kind of license and permit that's needed on the local level? But also the LLC service tools can do this research for you, but again, it's for an additional fee. Now, what I want to do quickly is talk about the next video in this series, which is the different options for LLC formation. And again, that's the online going through the state website, going through LLC services, or an attorney. What you need to consider is the fees associated with setting up your LLC. This is pretty cool. I won't scroll down right now, but there's a calculator down here that you can get into that'll show you down to the dollar what it's going to cost you to own an LLC in New Jersey for 5 years, because there's things such as maintaining the LLC and costs involved with that. There's a star ratings here where we explain the differences between these three types of options for you and where these star ratings come from. We also talk about why the state website becomes a pain, because there's domestic LLCs and foreign LLCs, and we're going to do a breakdown of that. And then questions worth asking if you should talk to an attorney. We're going to give really deep insights of why you may want to consider these questions and what they mean to you in reference to setting up your LLC. So I look forward to catching you in that next video. And again, I highly advise you get this checklist in the description below, and we'll catch you in the next video.